I am the color red in a world.
The wrestling world was shattered when news broke of Bray Wyatt's passing. A man who transcended the squared circle, Wyndham Rotunda, known to millions as Bray Wyatt, was more than just a professional wrestler. He was an artist, a storyteller, and a mastermind of psychological drama. His loss left an irreplaceable void in WWE, a company that prides itself on creating larger-than-life personas. Wyatt's journey was far from ordinary, and his influence on sports entertainment will echo for generations.
The color red in a world full of black and white.
We're here.
Bray Wyatt, born Wyndham Lawrence Rotunda on May 23, 1987, was one of the most captivating and unique performers in professional wrestling history. He came from a prestigious wrestling lineage, with his father, Mike Rotunda, being a well-known wrestler, and his grandfather, Blackjack Mulligan, being a legendary figure in the business. Growing up around wrestling, he developed a deep appreciation for the art of storytelling within the squared circle. However, rather than merely following in his family's footsteps, he carved out a completely original path that made him stand out as one of the most innovative and enigmatic characters WWE had ever seen. Initially competing under the name Husky Harris in WWE's developmental system, and later on the main roster as part of the Nexus, he struggled to find a true identity. He was athletic for his size, had an imposing look, and possessed raw talent, but his character lacked depth. Realizing he needed to reinvent himself, he returned to WWE's developmental territory, then known as FCW, and later rebranded as NXT. It was there that he began to craft the persona that would redefine his career and elevate him to superstardom, Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was introduced as the eerie, charismatic leader of the Wyatt family, a faction deeply inspired by Southern Gothic horror, cult leaders, and supernatural themes. Alongside Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, he debuted in WWE in 2013 with haunting vignettes that set the tone for something different. His promos were unlike anything seen in modern wrestling, cryptic, poetic, and philosophical, blending dark imagery with an almost hypnotic cadence that mesmerized fans. He spoke of following the buzzards, a call to his followers that symbolized chaos and destruction. His eerie lantern-lit entrances and the haunting melody of Live in Fear further cemented his character as something special. What set Wyatt apart was his ability to immerse himself completely in his character. His performance held at storytelling, making every movement, every facial expression, and every action in the ring means something. His feuds with top WWE stars like John Cena, The Undertaker, and Roman Reigns showcased his ability to elevate any storyline. His WrestleMania 30 match against Cena was a significant moment in his career, proving that he could stand toe-to-toe with one of WWE's biggest names and hold his own in a high-profile feud. Perhaps one of Wyatt's greatest strengths was his ability to reinvent himself. While many wrestlers become stagnant over time, he constantly evolved, keeping his character fresh and unpredictable. When the Wyatt family disbanded, and he was left to find a new direction, he created a new, even more complex version of himself, the Fiend. This iteration of Bray Wyatt debuted in 2019 and was unlike anything WWE had seen before. It was a dual personality character. One side was a friendly, almost childlike host of a twisted kids show called the Firefly Funhouse, while the other was a monstrous masked entity known as the Fiend, who was nearly unstoppable in the ring. The Firefly Funhouse segments were some of the most creative WWE had ever produced, filled with hidden meanings, surreal imagery, and a psychological depth rarely seen in wrestling. The Fiend, meanwhile, was a horror-inspired figure who struck fear into his opponents and fans alike. The character was a massive success, leading to Wyatt capturing the Universal Championship twice. His transformation into the Fiend showed his commitment to evolving his persona and taking risks, proving that he was one of the most creative minds in the industry. Beyond his in-ring work, Wyatt's influence on professional wrestling was profound. He inspired a new generation of wrestlers to embrace storytelling, creativity, and character work in a way that hadn't been seen in years. His ability to make his feuds feel personal and meaningful set a new standard. He blurred the lines between reality and fiction, making his storylines compelling and unpredictable. His dedication to long-term storytelling kept fans invested in his work, as they always knew that with Wyatt, every little detail mattered. Despite being a larger-than-life character, Wyatt had a deep connection with fans. He wasn't just a villain, he was a complex, tragic figure that many could relate to. Whether as the cult-like leader of the Wyatt family, the tormented figure behind Firefly Funhouse, or the terrifying fiend, there was always an element of humanity in his portrayal. This emotional depth allowed fans to engage with him on a level beyond just wins and losses. The Wyatt family era was a masterpiece in character work. The cult-like presence of Wyatt, the brainwashing rhetoric, and the swamp-born mystique made him a villain unlike any other. He wasn't evil for the sake of being evil. He had a purpose, a mission, and that made him all the more terrifying. His battles with legends such as John Cena, The Undertaker, and Kane were not just wrestling matches. They were psychological wars. He pried into their souls, unearthing insecurities and fears that they didn't even know existed. His confrontation with Cena at WrestleMania 30 was a defining moment in his career. Though he lost the match, he won in a much greater sense, cementing himself as an entity that didn't need championship gold to be one of the most talked about figures in wrestling. His ability to adapt and evolve set him apart from others. When the Wyatt family slowly dissolved, instead of fading away, he morphed into something even more disturbing. The Firefly Funhouse became his new playground, a seemingly innocent children's show filled with puppets and vibrant colors. But beneath the facade was something far more sinister. It was his mind at work, controlling narratives, playing games with reality. Then came the Fiend, a creation that stood as one of the most brilliant personas ever seen in WWE. With a horrifying mask crafted by renowned artist Tom Savini, the Fiend was the embodiment of every suppressed nightmare Wyatt had hinted at for years. The introduction of the Fiend turned the wrestling world on its head. The character was almost supernatural in essence, a nightmarish entity that decimated opponents in a way that had never been seen before. His attack on Finn Balor was brutal, his entrance unsettling, his matches a spectacle of psychological horror. The red lighting, the distorted laughter, the mandible claw, a move he adopted from the legendary Mick Foley. Everything about the Fiend screamed fear. When he won the Universal Championship, it felt like a moment of destiny rather than a mere title victory. However, even with all his reinventions, Wyatt's greatness was not simply in his character work, but in the emotions he evoked. He made people feel. Whether it was excitement, fear, sympathy, or intrigue, he had a way of drawing viewers into his world. His promos were more than just words. They were invitations into his twisted mind, riddled with layers of meaning that fans would dissect for weeks. His ability to blur the line between fiction and reality made him a once-in-a-lifetime performer. He understood the art of wrestling as more than just a physical contest. It was storytelling, emotion, and psychology all woven together. Even when WWE creative sometimes struggled to book him in a way that matched his brilliance, Wyatt always found a way to make his character compelling. Whether he was facing off against Randy Orton, feuding with Daniel Bryan, or engaging in cinematic spectacles like the Firefly Funhouse match against Cena at WrestleMania 36, he proved time and again that he was a different breed of performer. The Firefly Funhouse match, in particular, was a testament to his genius. It wasn't a match in the traditional sense, but rather a journey through Cena's career, exposing his flaws and deconstructing the very nature of WWE storytelling itself. Wyatt didn't just win that match, he reinvented what a wrestling match could be. Beyond the character, the man behind Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, was beloved in the industry. His colleagues spoke highly of his kindness, his passion, and his creativity. He was someone who constantly pushed the envelope, refusing to be just another wrestler. He didn't settle for the status quo. He aimed to change the game, and he did. His influence on the industry can be seen in the way wrestling promotions now embrace more cinematic storytelling, in the way characters are given more freedom to be unique, and in the way psychological elements have become more prominent in rivalries. Even after his unexpected release from WWE, his name never faded. Fans clamored for his return. Theories swirled about his next move, and the wrestling world knew that whatever he did next would be groundbreaking. When he finally made his return to WWE, it was a moment that sent shockwaves through the industry. The eerie white rabbit clues, the suspense-filled vignettes, and the eventual emergence of Wyatt once again showed just how much he understood the art of anticipation. And when he stepped back into the spotlight, it was as if he had never left, his presence still as magnetic as ever. His untimely passing in 2023 left the wrestling world in shock and mourning. Tributes poured in from wrestlers, fans, and industry figures, all recognizing his unparalleled creativity and contributions to the sport. He wasn't just another wrestler. He was an artist who used wrestling as his canvas to create something unforgettable. His legacy will continue to influence future generations of wrestlers who seek to push the boundaries of what's possible in professional wrestling storytelling. Bray Wyatt was great because he was more than just a wrestler. He was a visionary who redefined what it meant to be a character in professional wrestling. His commitment to storytelling, ability to reinvent himself, and deep connection with fans made him one of the most unique and beloved figures in WWE history. Though he may no longer be with us, his influence and memory will live on forever in the hearts of those who watched him perform and in the wrestlers who were inspired by his genius